Greetings, Minecrafters, and welcome to another exciting Minecraft podcast episode today on all things well-being. As mentioned, Minecraft is about becoming the boss of our brain, getting control of those thoughts. My name is Dr. Kimberly Quinn, and we have another Champlain College Signature Series guest speaker today. Here with me is Dr. Thomas Myers. Is it okay if I call you Tom?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Perfect.
And Tom is going to be speaking with us on one of my favorite topics, which is synchronicity. Welcome, Tom.
Thank you. Thank you, Kim. Nice to be here.
Okay, well, I am so excited to have this conversation, Tom. And now just remember that we've got our amazing Champlain College community here, which is where we are right now. And we've also got listeners across the world in 52 other countries. So I'm wondering if maybe, some folks may not know what synchronicity is, or they think they know. Do you think you could maybe start off by maybe explaining that for us?
Certainly. Yeah, that's a great place to start. And, synchronicity can have some confusing definitions. So we can kind of lay the groundwork of what synchronicity is, specifically some of its derivatives, and then relay some stories that how that can be specifically applied. So synchronicity is the combination of two words: sync, to come together, chronos, the Greek word of time. So things coming together in time. So that right place at that right time. Developed way back in 1928, Carl Gustav Jung, Swiss psychologist, who began thinking about this and thought about this concept of synchronicity, and the synchronicity where what you think about in your internal psyche then magically, it manifests in the physical world. Now, he thought about this extensively, and Jung comes from a background with many different multifaceted inputs of information. So he was looking at it at a macro level. Interestingly, he recorded, thought about it, wrote about it, never published it. And it wasn't until around 1952 when he met Wolfgang Pauli, who was known as an Austrian physicist, known as the father of quantum mechanics and quantum physics. When they started to collaborate and talk about things, it was Pauli who actually urged Jung to write together about synchronicity, and that there was some physical connections or physical underpinnings to support the psyche of synchronicity. So there's the quantum or the quantum physics pieces that were coming together to support this. So they published in 1952, and lo and behold, very interestingly, that because of Jung's earlier reservations in not wanting to publish, to think that his peers and in the scientific community might think of him as being a bit of a wacko. He didn't want to, proclaim this and be then designated as or outcast as, okay, you've gone off the deep end. When he did publish, it was interesting that these very scientific peers came to him and said, thank you for writing about this, because I've been thinking about the same thing. I've been thinking the exact same methodology behind synchronicity, and it's got this forces out there. I didn't want to publish to be then seen as the wacko, so thank you for doing that for us. But it was for Jung and Pauli then to see that there was support in the scientific community and an urging to want to know more about synchronicity.
Oh my God, this is just so interesting, Tom. And Tom and I were talking while we were on the phone and stuff, or on Zoom, and now we were talking off the record before the podcast. And I said to him, "You can't make this stuff up. We're talking about synchronicity. I was literally on the way here this morning in my Jeep, and I just sort of blindly listen to podcasts because it's what I like to hear, and I don't look at my phone when I'm driving. Back to back, two podcasts came on synchronicity. Like, it's just wild. I got chill up my back.
Yeah.
Can you explain?
And then you saw the bumper sticker when you.
And then the bumper sticker right in front of me, right in front of me.
What did the bumper sticker say?
don't always believe everything you think.
Yeah.
Right in
And
front. That was yesterday, so it was
yeah.
leading up to this.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a really good point, Kim, in that we can talk about definitions and history of synchronicity, but until you put it into a relatable context where people can then see, oh my gosh, this is exactly, I know this feeling of being able to see the connections, or sometimes the definition of synchronicity, be able to see around corners, right? So let me start by a little bit of giving some context to the definition, and then I want to relate some stories that kind of put this into definition. So Jung, when he wrote about these criteria, he thought of synchronicity as an acausal connecting event. So acausal meaning it's not one that you put into motion, not a cause and effect, but an acausal. Something came to you. Kim, you're listening to podcasts. You didn't specifically look at the podcast of these people and said, "Oh, you're synchronicity.
No,
I'm going to push
it
it."
was blind.
It came. Okay. So, a quick example is when the internal what you're thinking about cycle in your internal psyche matches the external material world and things are manifest. So I could be thinking about someone. I haven't seen this person for 2 or 3 years. I wonder how they're doing. Just as I'm thinking about this person, I look down on my cell phone and they're calling. Like, oh my gosh, I didn't create the impetus to call first and call me back. No, it was just I was just thinking about you and you're calling me. That is wild. So that acausal effect. Secondly, is it has this very almost a numinous or spiritual or mystical feel to it. Like this can't be just a coincidence. There's more to it. It's got to be like almost the hair on the back of your neck stands up. Like this is freaky. This could never happen again in a million years. Wow. So you become awestruck by that. Thirdly, it is a meaningful coincidence, as you say, coincidence, it's synchronicity. It's meaningful to you personally. What might be mind blowing to you may not be so much to another person. It's personal. And it can change the course, could change the course of a life or change a course of direction. It can help with the decision, like this is the direction that I feel like I want to go. So I think the first time that I ever really became conscious of this element of synchronicity was way back when I was in college. Now, this is something that at the time may not have been meaningful to me then, but it then did set the course. It was that initial motion of my kind of a lifelong intrigue into this concept of synchronicity. So one early Sunday morning, after a Saturday night on a college campus, as you probably can imagine, a little crazy, I walk into the TV room in the dorm, and there's one guy sitting there watching TV. And at the time in the 80s, everyone watched MTV. And MTV had these little fun skits and things between the music videos. So I walk into the room and I look up and all I see on the screen is a palm tree. As a millisecond of a view, I see a palm tree. I said, oh, it just reminds me, and I was telling this guy sitting there, reminds me of a funny joke, right? I always had bazillion jokes. So I start telling the joke, right? All I saw was the palm tree. Reminded me, oh, these guys on a deserted island, right? As I'm telling the joke, I keep kind of glancing up the TV. It's like, wait a minute. As I'm telling this very joke of how many trillion jokes are out there, it happens to be this joke is being played on the TV in a skit. Now, I said to myself, the guy probably thought I was whack. I was like, oh my God, this is the joke I was telling you. Just watch the TV. You're going to see the joke. I don't have to tell you. It's like, how can that happen? How can that happen? So I thought, well, meaningful to me personally, because that, again, as I said earlier, set the tone for my interest and inquiry into synchronicity. I want to know more about this. So there's one brief example. And so it's fun for listeners to, invite you to be thinking about stories of how things come together in time that may seem like a coincidence, but there is meaning to it. And if I can relate another story,
Sure, by all means.
and this is an example of a synchronicity story that's gone on for 6 decades. So, what might be put into play in the beginning, you never know how that's going to continually be played out. So, back when I was out of college, I was a ski racing coach for a number of years. And so, we happened to be training in Europe during the summer on the glaciers. And I just happened to be going up a T bar with a guy who was another coach from the United States. And we started talking, we became good friends just because we were hanging out together. So we were talking a little bit about our histories. And he said, yeah, my dad passed away in the late 60s. And what I'll probably do is change some of the names and some of the very slight descriptions of the exact things for anonymity purposes. But so my dad was killed in a very obscure plane crash in this one place in the Northeast. Now I'm thinking, oh my gosh, my dad's best friend was killed in a plane crash in that same place at the exact same way. And I said to myself, wait, is this what happened with the plane crash? And I think I may have given him some information about that crash that he didn't know. So come to find out, my father and his father were best buddies. And they were both ski patrol at this upstate New York ski area, right? So it kind of made that connection. And so it was pretty wild. Like, how in the world on the other side, of the Atlantic, two people, meet each other, and their fathers were very, very close friends. During the pandemic, the last couple of years, my dad sent me hundreds of picture slides, and I converted them into digital. And so I'm going through these old slides of him on ski patrol with this guy, we'll call him John. His friend John was killed in the plane crash. And what I learned, again, was that, oh, there's my buddy John. He was the one who introduced me to your mother. He was friends with me and made the introduction to my mother, who was there at that ski place with her girlfriends. And so my father's friend John introduced my father and my mother. So without John being there, I wouldn't be sitting here today. So there's an example. I mean, synchronicity might be a moment in time, but the story keeps unfolding, over the span of 60 years. And certainly doesn't relate to you, Kim, but it relates to me personally, as this is mind blowing because it, is kind of, without this person, I wouldn't exist today.
Oh, this is just such a great conversation, Tom. And Tom and I have been talking off the record in between. We've had so many experiences between the two of us. So you were saying, talking about the word, you were saying coincidences, and I was kind of saying, I don't really, I don't think there are any coincidences. What do you think? And we are on the same page with this. So we said coincidence, coincide. And then I asked Tom, I said, is this going on all around us? Because some people think, why does that happen to me? But what is your answer to whether it's going on all around us all the time?
Yeah, that's a good. It is everywhere. And that's the wonderful piece of synchronicity, is it's superpower, a superpower that we all possess. It is going around us at all times, 24/7. Things are happening around us. There are possibilities of connections and opportunities for seeing these connections, participating, and leveraging them. But we have to see them. And what are those signs and symbols that are around us? How do we put ourselves into a place where we can take advantage of this synchronicity or this energy, this oneness, and understanding that, which is mind blowing, but you think about it both from a social, emotional, mental, spiritual, physical piece, everything is connected. And when you understand that everything, either, physically or however, it is connected. So how do we tap into that? I think the one thing in my research and from personal experience is you need to quiet the mind. And we live in just a very noisy world, and there's just so many distractions and many things that are around us that do not allow us to tap into this energy and this super consciousness that's outside of us. So how do we tap into from the conscious to the subconscious? Many ways. Obviously, quieting the mind through meditation, quieting the mind through sleep, quieting the mind through prayer, deep thinking, deep meditation, quiet time. Doesn't have to be for an extended period of time, but just enough to allow and put yourself into that open space. And we were talking about attention and intention. So being able to put yourself into the space where you can see this dimension of the connectivity that's around you. Sometimes it starts, with a question. How do I fix this? How might I pursue this opportunity? What is the best course of action? Quiet your mind. Then pieces will start to connect. Oh my gosh, I met this person yesterday who had talked about this. Then things start to connect. I saw this book that I know I should read that's going to help me to do that. And this person the other day just started a new opportunity, new job at the place where I wanted. Whatever that might be, things are going to start to connect, but we've got to quiet the mind. Some folks in my research said that when they are at their most vulnerable, maybe a low point in life, maybe a time when you don't know what the next step is. Where am I going to go? But you're open yourself up again for that attention. Open yourself up for answers. Then they come. Can't force it, but there is a universe out there. There is a large universe, and again, when we talk about synchronicity, it can be defined as there's a higher power, there is a source, there is a universe, there is a God. However you want to define that, I think it's vitally important that there is a belief in a power, and that there either be it defined as synchronicity or a divine intervention or however that might be. That's the wonderful piece of being a human being, is that we have the freedom to define internally what that means to us, and having that freedom and having that opportunity to think about how am I going to make these connections, and how am I going to connect with that source, with that higher power that probably has the answers that are out there. I just need to understand how to tap into that. So ultimately, quieting the mind is that way of making that, seeing those connections.
Wow, Tom, I just you tapped into my mindfulness interest too, because as you know, I begin every single class I teach with mindfulness, and for this reason, to clear out the mind and be receptive to the material, but true in life. And we think about, a lot of the great thinkers are saying the same thing. Deepak Chopra and John Kabat-Zinn, and we can add lots and lots of people there, Wayne Dyer and Oprah and everything, but they all say the same thing, different words, that a calm mind, a quiet mind, is a powerful, very focused mind. Because I know you want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, and it is so powerful, and it's probably something that we overlook far too often. But understanding to quiet that mind and to set an intention within your body, coupled with the mindfulness, is the breathing, and having some really good breath work, and just being able to physiologically put yourself into that mental state of relaxing the mind and opening up your thought processes to the subconscious. I mean, that's a sometimes a pretty daunting task to think about. But I think the wonderful thing about a meditation or prayer or mindfulness is that there's no real one correct way to do it. What works for you? You know, if I had to sit on the floor and try to do that, it might be difficult for me personally. But being able to sit in a comfortable chair with my feet flat on the ground, that I can put myself into that state. And I just can't tell you how many times where, I've been in a situation, and some, I think I mentioned earlier, but some of the research where you're at your most vulnerable state, then your mind goes to a place that will help to see these connections and make some and give you some next step answers. I love one of the quotes that read recently, but from Carl Jung, who says, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes."
Oh my God, I love that. I just had like an aha light bulb moment.
So
Like
so
pump
often,
moment.
right? So
You know what I
often
mean?
as humans, we say, "Oh, the answer's out there. I got to go
Yeah.
talk to people. I got to go figure this out.
Mhm.
Someone else knows the answer."
But it's not out there.
No.
It's in here.
Right.
I love it.
And so then we can go inside. The answer's all within us. And from the synchronicity or the universe, it's all around us. The answers are here. We just need to tap into,
We need to listen, right,
listen.
Tom? We need to listen.
Listen to that quiet voice inside. And that huge aspect of intuition, that it really is the feeling. What is that feeling that you get when you associate this thinking of what you're making these connections, positive or negative? They can, intuition can yield a negative feeling that is probably telling you you're not on the right track. And so it was fun because within a lot of my research, I kept hearing people make the metaphor of green lights. When I just continually see green lights down my path, I know it's a go. Put the accelerator down and just go. When I get a yellow or a red light, I know I'm working too hard. Things should kind of fall into place easily. They should flow. You're getting into that flow thinking. And so when you get into a situation where, gosh, this is just not, it's as hard, this is not working, you're probably not going down that right path. It's time to back up to the intersection and take that other road. So a buddy of mine, Mike from Tampa, Florida, sent me a picture that I had posted at one point in Tampa, Florida, and it's probably a mile looking down this road of green light after green light after green light after green light. He said, "I got to take this picture and send it to you, Tom." Interestingly enough, too, that Matthew McConaughey wrote a book last year, came out, called Greenlights, and so that's a lot of his branding and marketing now is, hey, just trust that intuition. When it feels right, the right answers and the right people and the right events are coming to you at that right time. Take advantage of that, go with it, because you're probably on the green light track.
Oh my God, I love that. It's the thing we were talking about Wayne Dyer too, and he says trust the process.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
green light thing, Tom, I love that because it's like an actual visual.
I'll send you the picture. You can post it on
Please
your
do.
site. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Tom, my mind is going in like 1,000 different directions because this is so exciting. So something came into my head when you were just talking just barely about people, maybe like when they're out there, maybe they didn't even have the name synchronicity, but they just know that these kind of mysterious things happen. And people often say, well, these come in threes. It's kind of even cliche, right? These come in threes.
Yeah.
What do you have to say about that? Is that real?
Yeah. No, that's a really good point, because, there is a lot of history and numerology about threes and the significance of threes. So during my synchronicity research, it kept coming up that that synchronicity happens in patterns, and synchronistic events and people they meet tend to come in threes. It might be two, it might be five, it might be six, but typically a nice, comprehensible way to think about it, and a way to digest it, is threes. So I worked on a theory which is called the 3A theory. And so when events and people you meet and things happen, it is connected to the first A, which is called awareness. And that's connected to the logical, to the head. Okay. I understand what that is. Got it. I'm aware of it. So the second is acknowledgement. A second time, an event, or a second dream you have, or a second person you meet, or a second synchronistic event that is connected to the first. That is then, okay, that is that connection of the thinking about acknowledgement. I know I heard this before. Someone said this. I logged it in my brain. Now, intuitively in my gut, I feel like this is weird. I just heard about this, and now I'm seeing it again. I didn't bring this to me. I didn't look for it. It was there. It came to me. So it's that the awareness, the acknowledgement. The third is action. Okay, it's the hand. Now it's time to take action. And this is a way to leverage those thoughts, leverage those synchronistic experiences to make something happen. So I can give an example that I use time and time again. It's happened to me, so I like to use it. But let's take Kim and I are talking just now. And Kim suggests this really, really good book that I should really read. Meant a lot to her. And so she's saying, Tom, you should read this book. I got that logged in my brain. Yep, cool. I'm going to think about that. Yes. I'm driving home when I get in the car after this interview, and lo and behold, on the radio, there's an interview with that author about that very same book. Now, this book was probably published 20 years ago. It's not the new, the latest and greatest book by this author that everyone is talking about. This is something that, again, was done long before, and it coincidentally or synchronistically, there it is on the radio. So again, intuitively from the heart and the acknowledgement, like, yep, I'm acknowledging that there's something there. Let's say the next day, I'm walking in downtown along the street and walk by a used bookstore, and lo and behold, I just happen to look down at the window of this bookstore, and there's that book. Okay, so that's that action, like that. Darn it, I'm going to go buy that book right now, because that means I need to read that book. There's something there that is important for me to understand and to know going forward that's going to help me in the future. So there's the head, the heart, the hand. Awareness, acknowledgement, and action are those three components that kind of make up that pattern of synchronicity.
Okay, there is just, wow, this has been such a good conversation, Tom, and I know myself, I can't wait to listen to it in its entirety, because I've been so engaged listening to you right now. And wow, there's just so much good stuff here. I like the part about the 3 A's, awareness, acknowledgement, and action, and head, heart, and hands, right? You said, and so I guess let's just say it now then, and then I'll let Tom kind of wind us up. But if any of you want to continue the conversation with Tom, I know I do. I'm going to put some links and contact information for him, as well as the resources he shared, right here for you to use whenever you like.
Absolutely, yeah. And just, I think that to leave you with this is that we're endowed with this superpower. It is a superpower that we as humans can connect with, and I think that's it creates some strong agency and strong feeling of power and not control, but basically it is you have the ability to tap into the superpower. Call it synchronicity, but it's all around us, and I think it's just a wonderful opportunity for us now, especially in this day and age. Give us some comfort that to see these connections that are going to both help you, help your relations, help career, wherever whatever is out there for you. But there is a superpower that is just waiting for you to connect with it.
I love that. I like how you said comfortable too.
Yeah.
Because that whole divine intelligence thing going on is enormously comforting, I think, in that whole connection. Well, that's a lot of food for thought. It's just fantastic. I know I feel like I'm feeling the high vibe myself right now. So I'd like to Thank you for coming, Tom, and enlightening all of us with your conversation and very valuable research on synchronicity.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here, Kim. Thank you so much for having me.